It's Jaylen Brown Day. We're not sleeping on him anymore. Is he the most important player on the Celtics this season? I'm talking about it with Chad Finn of the Globe right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
I'm so hyped right now. Anything's possible. I'm on mama. I'm on my lady, ma. Anything's possible.
Rain and Jay's back with the vengeance. All the real Celtics fans in attendance. This the truth like 34. This like walking in the garden when you hear the roars. The crowd goes crazy. Most in-depth coverage on the daily. Mainly podcast royalty, the content kings. When you talking about the franchise with 17 rings. Focus like Danny at the deadline. Global with it, got a local feel like the red line, the blue line, the green line. Play it in between time. I'ma throw my C's jersey on in the meantime and press play. When the F's done, I can't wait until the next day. Trying to stay in tune with the C's, that's the best way. Melly.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast. Thank you for making the show part of your daily routine. Really appreciate you doing so. I'm John Karalis. I cover the Boston Celtics for Boston Sports Journal, and I'm the author of the Boston Celtics All-Time All-Stars, a book available everywhere books are sold, and on my personal website, johnkaralis.com, if you want a signed, personalized copy. Today is Jaylen Brown Day. People have been commenting in the YouTube comments. People have been asking for more Jaylen Brown content, saying people are sleeping on Jaylen Brown. We sleep no more. I got Chad Finn from the Globe in part 2 of our conversation, getting into Jaylen Brown and his importance to the Celtics, especially this season. Everyone is talking about Jason Tatum. We talk about Marcus Smart, obviously, because he got the extension. I would have thought that Jaylen Brown would have come up a lot more over the course of this summer, because he went into the summer having had surgery on his wrist that cost him the end of last season. And we've seen him here and there and all of that. But I put out my questions for my mailbag, and I get reactions like, why is no one talking about Jaylen Brown?
Yeah.
And the more questions, like, we're just not, because I feel like there's the question of, well, if Jaylen Brown can continue to be an all-star, then blah, blah, blah. And that's the end of the Jaylen Brown discussion. When Jaylen Brown is you can say, second most important guy on the team. You might even say first most important guy on the team, because we know what we're going to get with Jason Tatum. And if Jaylen Brown can ascend even further, then watch out. Maybe we're not going the 3-star route. Like, Jaylen Brown's season this year could determine whether Boston decides to go after Bradley Beal or say, you know what, we're going to kind of go the Milwaukee route and go with 1 and 1A and try to build a really deep, good fundamental core around those guys to support them.
He's Chris Middleton. Is that what he's going to be?
I mean, better than Chris Middleton, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, if he can get that. I picture Chris Middleton as like that killer shooter, and Jaylen has had killer shooting games. Do we believe in him? I guess that's one of the questions here. Do we believe in Jaylen Brown as a killer shooter? Can he come in and just be, because he had that mid-range game last year and that faded a little bit. Was that part of the pandemic? Was that not? If he can come in and be exactly Chris Middleton.
Yeah.
I mean, and more athletic, obviously, and a better defender.
Yeah.
If he's exactly that, then he's a perennial all-star.
Yeah. My thinking with Jaylen is people who get really frustrated with him or get down on him or say, he's a fringe all-star, he's a movable piece. I would like to give them like a video package of him his rookie year, because I think it would be really obvious really quickly of all the areas he's drastically improved. The ball handling, the passing. The ball handling took a huge leap. The passing's gotten a little better. Shooting is so much better. Awareness, all these things. And that is experience. Some of it's experience, but more of it's hard work. And you know that this guy is committed to getting better at basketball in a lot of different ways. He's doing, he recognizes what his weaknesses are and he works on them. And the next thing, I think most people would agree, is that he and Tatum need to learn to play off each other better. Rather, they too often devolve into my turn basketball, and it's understandable because they're Tatum in particular, but they're both excellent one-on-one players when things are going. It's an understandable habit to fall into, but to be a better basketball team and a more consistent basketball team and one that's harder to defend, they've got to learn to enhance each other. And I just knowing what we know about how hard Jaylen's worked in this game before, or how much he's improved, I would imagine that's something he's contemplating and working on. And I think the reason we don't talk about him that much or think about him that much is he's kind of been, as you said, out of sight, out of mind. Tatum was out there getting buckets and plaudits from Kevin Durant during the Olympics, and Marcus got his new contract. Robert Williams got his new contract. So they're guys who are just in our consciousness right now, whereas we haven't seen a lot of Jaylen. But if you set aside a moment to think about what he is as a player, I think he's someone we should still be really enthusiastic about and expect to continue ascending as a player, because it's not linear. It's never linear. They never just shoot up and become superstars without little bumps and roadblocks along the way. But for the most part, he's trended upward his entire career, and we don't know when that's going to stop, but I don't think it's right now.
It has been extraordinarily impressive. And I was guilty of a couple of seasons ago, kind of predetermining, all right, well, this is what he's going to be. This is, and I think part of that was because he had made such a big improvement from his rookie season that I was happy with that. I personally, looking at it and evaluating the team, was like, man, if this is what Jaylen Brown's going to be for the rest of his career, that's great. Spot up shooter in the corner, attack the closeout. Boom. That's fantastic. But to his credit, he continued to improve. And not only improve, but he improved over the COVID break. Like he improved in a short turnaround. He didn't have much opportunity to work on his game. And next thing you know, he comes out and he's playing differently. He's playing better. And you're like, where did he even have time to work on
Plus,
this?
He's very
stuff?
involved in social issues. It's not, it's not like he just has basketball going on in his life.
Right. And what he does, clearly he's got the balance. I'm so like, I have a big problem with the people who will see Jaylen out doing something at an event or something, say, oh, he should be working on blah, blah, blah. Like he hasn't been spending the morning in the gym, and that 2 minutes on Instagram is a different part of the day. Right. The opportunity, like, there's 24 hours, there's 20 hours of whatever to do whatever you're going to do. Well, or not 20. What am I talking about? Like 18, 16, whatever it is.
He should be back for 4 seasons playing video games. Just like
right.
80% of the league.
So I'm impressed. I'm really impressed. So I'm not putting any caps on what Jaylen can end up being. If this is all that Jaylen is, and he is kind of like that fringe all-star, that's still really good. But that makes me think, all right, got to go out and get that third star, because you're going to need someone who's going to get double teamed. And I don't think Jaylen's going to get double teamed every night automatically. He's going to have some nights, but not every night. You're going to pick your poison somewhere, and hopefully he doesn't get hot. But if he can improve, then watch out. And you mentioned Tatum and Brown playing off of each other. I've been begging for them to set picks for one another.
Yeah, and right.
I don't know why they don't. And I haven't had the opportunity to even ask Brad privately to say, hey, what am I not seeing? If you're not running pick and rolls with Jaylen as the pick setter, or even Tatum as the pick setter, even if teams just switch that because they're being guarded by similarly sized guys, punish the switch, slip, do something. You can punish however they want to defend you, make them make the choice, and have those two really good players kill them for that decision.
Yeah. And it encourages, sharing the ball and working creatively off each other, and probably would be a great energy thing for them too. I wanted to ask you one question about regarding Jaylen and Beal. What's your ideal for a third star for the Celtics? Because I tell people who have that daydream of getting Beal to go with Jaylen and Tatum, I'm I'm not sure how it would work. I would worry that it would become 3 guys playing. It's my turn now, or Jaylen would kind of turn into the Ray Allen of the group, where he would be the one who would have to make the most sacrifice, like when Ray
Sure.
Allen came here. Garnett was completely unselfish, but Ray Allen's shots went way down from what he took in. I think he averaged 26 and a half a game his last season with Seattle.
Yep.
I'm not sure that trio works, as enticing as it is, especially if you're familiar with what Bradley Beal's game really is. So what's your ideal for that third player to pair with these two guys? There's no like clone of 25-year-old Chris Paul out there or anything like that they can bring in.
Back with more from Chad in just a minute. But first, I got to tell you about SweatBlock. It's the answer to excessive perspiration. I know that it's an embarrassing problem. You don't like talking about it. I'm going to talk about it for you. A doctor had the same problem, and he created SweatBlock. Now he recommends it for up to 7 days of being sweat-free in your problem areas. Take a shower, get the SweatBlock wipe, apply it to the problem areas, wake up in the morning, wash it off, and you are good to go for up to a week. Go check out the reviews on Amazon. There are 13,000 of them compiled over 10 years where SweatBlock was a bestseller. Check it out. The videos from Rachel Ray, where firefighters tested this under their gear and came out with dry shirts. If your shirt's not dry after using SweatBlock, you got the guarantee money back. Doesn't matter. If it's worked, then great. You have yourself a little secret to your confidence and you can wear what you want to wear. If it doesn't work for some reason, you get your money back so you can use it with confidence one way or another. Go to sweatblock.com right now. Check it out. Use the promo code LOCKEDON. You're going to get 20% off. 20% off at sweatblock.com with the promo code LOCKEDON, or pick some up at Amazon or at CVS. Today's show is also brought to you by DirecTV Stream. Does this sound familiar? You've got one device that lets you catch the game live, another that lets you stream your favorite shows, and then you're watching sports highlights on your phone. Plus, you're stealing your neighbor's best friend's login for all of the good stuff. Well, there's a simpler way to get all that entertainment you love without the hassle, and a great way to finally get your TV together. It's called DirecTV Stream, and it brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. That means no more juggling remotes, no need to buy another device ever again, and the best part, no annual contract. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package. So I've been saying Bradley Beal, and I'm on board with Bradley Beal, mostly because I feel like in today's NBA, what you mostly need is guys that need to be double teamed. And more so than how do they fit together. The
That's
question I think to me more the question is, well, how do you stop that? How do you stop? Like, who do you double team? Because if you do Beal, Tatum, and Brown, and part of it depends on, well, who do you get to keep? Do you get to keep Robert Williams? Because now if you have a passable point guard, even if it's Peyton Pritchard, or you find a decent point guard on the market for the mid-level exception, now you've got 3 guys in today's league. Okay, a couple of power forwards are going to be problematic there. And maybe you get a guy off the bench that can kind of help in a pinch, or maybe that's Grant Williams. You just keep him around for that. But I think the switchability and the way the league is now, where most power forwards are either tall and lanky, or if they're strong, they're smaller. You can deal with that. Who do you double team on that team? If you're going to have to double somebody, and that's going to leave the other guys single covered or open. That's going to, I just think defensively you end up getting stuck. You can't zone that up because they're going to just shoot over the top of it. Those 3 guys can kill a zone just with their shooting. I think Jaylen playing even into the middle of that zone with his mid-range game, Tatum with the mid-range game, I just look at it offensively, and I think that's a team that's going to score 120 points a game because, and then you add a defensive element to it, and maybe Bradley Beal decides, hey, I don't have to score 29, 30 points a game. I'm going to put a little bit more effort in my defense, which he used to when it was okay. Now you're getting out into transition. As long as everybody's getting their shot, and as long as everybody's kind of happy doing this, then I think it will work.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think ideally you would want that third star to also fit a need. Like, I mean, if Nikola Jokic became a free agent in a couple of years and he became the third star, then that's perfect because you give up Robert Williams for that, and you got Jokic like that type of third star, or an elite point guard third star, sure. But right now, you kind of take what you can get, and you just put the pressure on the other team, and you just play Udoka's kind of Spursy. Let's just move the ball, set picks for one another, move the ball, pass it. We're all going to get our touches. We're all going to get our shots. Trust me, by the end of the season, you're all going to be averaging like 23, 24, 25. We're going to get our rings, plural, and we all get to like make our plans for Hall of Fame speeches.
That sounds like a pretty good plan. Would Drew Holiday have been that third guy, kind of the way he is with the Bucks? Would that have worked? Had that deal, they've given up the ransom to get him here? Would he fit with those two guys?
I don't know. I mean, I assume that he replaces Marcus Smart. And
yeah, probably.
So giving up what you gave up, what Milwaukee gave up to get Holiday, I would rather just keep Smart because you're giving up too much to, even though Holiday's better offensively. But we even saw during the playoffs, like the offense wasn't exactly that much better. He wasn't winning those games with his offense.
He had some Marcus moments with his shooting.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. And he weirdly couldn't finish around the rim anymore. And, he made some plays for sure. But, I don't think he was the guy, mostly because Tatum wasn't ready to be the Giannis type. Mm-hmm. And you need that Giannis takeover buoyed by the Middleton shooting, and then you have that third punch of like, well, okay, now Holiday is going to be the guy that just completely shuts down Chris Paul. Let's say that they did get him. I just don't think that Tatum was ready to be exactly that.
Right.
Like, he's just not Giannis. It's not an insult for me to say he's not Giannis, right?
Yeah, super alpha. Yeah. Well, Giannis wasn't Giannis for a while. It took him a couple of MVPs. He won 2 MVPs, and he still wasn't what he was in the finals. It's another huge step forward. I think we underestimate that with Tatum too, though. I think the fan base and some in the media do that. There's still room to grow. I saw pictures of him out there today, and he's jacked.
Muscle watch.
Yeah, I mean, how tall is he now? I mean, it seemed like he was still growing there, and you see him out there on the court with guys you think are taller than him, and they aren't anymore. And so as his basketball IQ gets higher, and it's pretty high for a young player already, and as he puts in the work like he's doing to get stronger and more efficient, I'm curious to see what he becomes, because this is a hell of a player right now, and he's not a finished product yet.
Back to wrap up the show with Chad Finn in just a minute. First, I got to tell you about Built Bar. Built Bar is the best tasting protein bar on the market. They've got 9 delicious flavors that range from chocolatey, like double chocolate, to fruity, like orange, or something like salted caramel or coconut. Whatever your heart desires, it's here. It tastes like a candy bar. There are nut-free options, and it's all healthy for you. It's good if you're on a keto diet. Not a problem at all there. If you've got the nut allergy, you can go through this and find them without nuts. If you are looking for the nutrition facts, go to built.com and just scroll over them. They've got a lot of different products too. They've got these Built Puffs. They've got protein balls now. They've got different things that show up on built.com all the time. The protein bars are great. They are all 17 to 18 grams of protein. calories ranging from 130 to 180, about 4 or 5 grams of sugar, and only 4 or 5 grams of net carbs. Delicious, healthy for you, tasty, all of that. Go to built.com, use the promo code LOCKED15. Locked15 gets you 15% off your next order. Use it as often as you want. Get a mixed box, figure out what flavors you like, then go back and use it again. Locked15 gets you 15% off every time at built.com. Today's show is also brought to you by BetOnline. Football is back, and we know that football is something a lot of people like to bet on, and BetOnline is your number one spot for all the pro and college football action this season. Updated odds, props, and contests, including online's biggest $500,000 NFL mega contest and the world's largest $200,000 NFL Survivor contest. It's all open now at BetOnline. Sign up now with the promo code LOCKEDON. You'll get a 100% welcome bonus. Whatever you deposit in that first deposit, 100% welcome bonus. They match it. It's like winning your bet right away. You can use promo code NFL100 to take advantage of the opening day super promo. Bet on the Bucs-Dallas Cowboys game. If you lose, your wager will be refunded up to $25. So if you want football, basketball, boxing, your favorite Vegas casino games, it's all right there at BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. Please gamble responsibly. And this is interesting in terms of the Jaylen Jason dynamic here. That, what was it, after the 60-point game that Tatum had, that Jaylen kind of went over and put his head on Tatum's shoulder, and we're just kind of like, I can't believe you just did that. I kind of wonder if that was some sort of I don't want to read too much into a moment like that, but you know us, we like to tell stories, and we like to have
does things with a purpose too sometimes.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I do feel like there was that was kind of like a moment of all right, I think I'm pretty damn good, but that was just wow.
Yeah.
You know?
Tip of the cap.
Yeah. And look, Jaylen had a 42-point game where he didn't play the whole fourth quarter. So he's capable of these explosions. But what Tatum did at the end of the season last year was just 50-point, 60-point. Whoa, that was different level. And so Jaylen now, I wonder how that impacts Jaylen. Obviously he's going to try to be the best he can be, and he's going to work on his game, but also he wants to be, everybody wants to win. And I wonder if he looks at Tatum and goes, okay, if Tatum's going to be doing that, how do I do what I do? And I wonder if that helps what he was working on. Now he hurt his left wrist. So I do wonder how that's going to impact his preparation. What do you think coming out of this summer where he still had his shooting wrist? He still could get out there and take the ball with one hand and work on that shot, or even you could still pick it up off a rack as long as no one's throwing baseball passes at him. You know, I wonder, when you think of where Tatum was, what Tatum kind of can be, and moving forward, what is it that Jaylen Brown needs to do? If you can get into his head and say, all right, this is the summer I'm doing blah, blah, blah. What is that makes him that second, that 1A that really makes the Celtics difficult, almost impossible to guard?
Yeah, I'm sure he thinks about that. You know, he's a thoughtful guy who thinks about his place in a lot of things. I wonder how that dynamic has evolved over the years, because he was here first. You know, he was the number 3 pick in the draft and got here a year earlier and made significant improvements from year 1 to year 2. And that can't always be easy when a younger guy comes in and ends up looking like ends up with a perception anyway that he's going to be the star, quote unquote, and the alpha and the guy who gets the ball in crunch time all the time. And kind of that generation of players who grew up idolizing Kobe, who expect the ball in the final seconds in their hands. Maybe Jaylen felt like that was going to be him at some point, and has to come to the realization that most nights it's not going to be. Most nights it's going to be Jason Tatum going forward. But I think he's a player and a person who's really well equipped to deal with that and to think something like that through, and to eventually come to this point where he's looking at it from the perspective of, what do I do to make myself the most complete player? What do I do to make myself the player who can help the team the most? And of all the things we talked about where they need to improve and how these two guys need to figure out how to mesh and mesh more and mesh better and more efficiently, my biggest hope is that Jaylen's the guy who figures it out, because Tatum's going to score. Tatum's going to shoot. I'm interested to see what happens the first time he dribbles 6 times between his legs and takes a pull-up, and how Udoka reacts to that when he wants the ball moved in a certain situation. But he's going to be that guy whose name is in the scoring race, and Jaylen is the one who has to acclimate. I think he knows that, and I think he's probably going to be able to handle it maturely.
I think it all hinges on understanding what's important and just my personal philosophical approach is understanding what's really important. Is what people say about you important? Is how you're perceived by others important? I would contend that it's not, but that's all we talk about. We, the collective we in this business. We talk about legacies. We talk about, who a player is, how big a star, who's the number one, who's the number two. And frankly, none of that's truly, truly important. What's important is, how do they work together? And if you end up with a dynamic like the Kyrie dynamic, where he's like, well, I don't want to be a number two, I want to be a number one. And I think part of this goes to ego. You don't get to this level without an ego that drives you to become the absolute best that you can be. That's partially within you. There's an ego in there that other people just don't have. Can that be set aside from both guys, from Tatum and Brown? Can they figure out together? Can they get to a point that says, look, it doesn't matter. Like, if we just understand, if we truly understand within each other, I'm good at this, this, and this, and I'm better than you at this, this, and this, and you're better than me at this, this, and if they can both admit what the other is better at and say, how do we put these puzzle pieces together to make us like Voltron? Like, how do we form together to be like this super player, the super 1-2 punch? If they can do that, then there's a better chance of them committing long-term, and there's a better chance of them figuring out and not just going my turn, your turn, or seeing any shoulder slump when someone does go between their legs 6 times because they get it into their heads. Because it's very easy for one guy to do that and for the other guy to be like, hello, you see the guy who's sagging into the paint too much? I'm wide open in the corner for 3. If they can get past those little moments, they're going to be great. They would be really, really great.
I'm 100% with you, and I really would love to know how their new coach is approaching that with them, because some of the things we know about Ime Udoka is that he's very blunt, he's very straightforward. He already has a relationship with these guys and seemingly their respect, and I would think that would be pretty high on his list of to-do lists after he got the job, to sit down with those two guys and say, how do we maximize this? And here's what I think. And, you talk about ego. That's absolutely right. I mean, you don't get to that level without having incredible self-belief, which I don't know if it's a particular flaw with Tatum and Brown to a really negative degree at any, every once in a while when they'll try to shoot their way out of a slump or something like that, and it, ends up backfiring. But I think that is the biggest frustration with Marcus Smart. He believes every shot he takes is going in, and he's the only one in the building sometimes that looks that way, but he's going to keep taking them. And that's a great thing in general, that you think that you think you're doing the right thing and believe in yourself and trust yourself. But, it also can be counterproductive sometimes when you make bad decisions because you're overestimating what you're capable of at a certain moment in time. And
right.
I would rather have guys, though, who really never have crisis of confidence than guys, guys who are going to be out there nervous and second guessing every time they miss a shot. And, if they go for 2, they're done for the night. if they don't hit one of their first couple of shots, it's all
Right.
over. And I think the Celtics in general are in pretty good spot with that, with Tatum and Brown at the forefront of this team, and guys like Marcus as secondary players. I think the overall self-worth, ego of this team is a pretty helpful one for the most part.
The Udoka point is great because I think the one selling point that you have with Udoka when it comes to these guys is that he gets to sit down with Tatum and Brown and say, I played with and coached Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili. I was there on the bench for one of the most brilliant seasons an NBA team has put forth. And that championship that they won was just a clinic in how to play basketball. It is everything Brad Stevens has ever aspired for his own basketball teams. And which is why I always wondered, like, is he hiring Udoka as his way of, I am dead set on getting that Spurs basketball here in Boston. I so want it so bad that I'm getting a coach from that team to come in here because these guys wouldn't listen to me when I tried to tell them, maybe they'll listen to you. And
I believe that.
100%.
Yeah.
I think that was certainly part of it. Like, Brad in the whole hiring process was like, I can't resist this Spurs connection. We all gush about that team because it was so awesome, but Brad especially gushes about that team.
He just watches that YouTube clip of their 86 Celtics level passing over and over again.
Oh my God.
10-minute clip.
Oh, absolutely. So I think that's where Udoka comes in. And like, you can't tell him, you can't say, yeah, but, because he'd be like, no, but Tim Duncan. Yeah, if Tim Duncan, the greatest power forward of all time, or one of the top 2 or 3, can pass the way he passed and be unselfish, then guess what? You, Jason Tatum, who has not ascended to that level yet, you can't say nothing because that guy made the entire team. It's no secret that once he showed up from his entire career, all of a sudden the Spurs went from here to boop, way up top. Yeah. We're now awesome. And we compare
there. Yeah.
Right. They just stayed there the entirety of Tim Duncan's career. Then Tim Duncan retired and he was like, bam, down to the bottom again or middle. Like, it's not a surprise. So
I think you're comparing him to Tom Brady right now. Pop and Belichick.
Yeah. That is the comparison. So I hope for Jaylen, just to wrap this up on giving him his due. I'm very curious to see what he adds to his game, just specifically, and maybe better shooting. Maybe this having to sit there and just shoot gets him to become a more consistent free throw shooter. And if he becomes just a consistently 80% free throw shooter, and he has gotten better.
Yep.
If that is something that he adds, then that makes it a lot more difficult because all of a sudden he's automatic from the line. I'm very curious to see what he adds and how he approaches this season with Tatum making the leaps that he's making. I'll finish by saying what I said at the top. Jaylen Brown's season will very likely determine the path of the Boston Celtics because we know what Jason Tatum, we have a pretty good idea what Jason Tatum's going to be. Do the Celtics go third star and find whatever third star they can and just make it work somehow? Or do they say, whoa, we got our 2 guys. We're going depth. We're going to take on those 3-star teams and we're going to challenge them because they're not deep. And we're going to challenge them across the board. And we feel like we have the 2 guys that we can challenge those teams with and feel good about it. And hopefully it works out. So in a lot of ways, Jaylen Brown is the most important Celtic this year.
Yeah, couldn't agree with that more. And I think one word of advice to fans who feel like they're a 5 or 6 seed, or they've stagnated, or there's no real path to going deep into the playoffs and achieving something you care about, is these guys aren't done improving. the two best players on your team are not done getting better. And we don't know what their ceiling is. We don't know what their peak is, but it's pretty reasonable and safe to say that they haven't hit it, and they may not even be within reach of it, within arm's length of it yet. And to me, that's the biggest reason for optimism about this team. You've got two great young players who work on their games, and surely are doing so right now. And hopefully, if there's something resembling a normal season, we'll get to see these guys at the peak of their powers this year.
All right. Well, Chad, appreciate you spending some time here with me. Good to talk to you again. It's been too long. Have you on again soon.
Anytime, John. Always great talking to you.
Big thanks to Chad Finn for coming on the show, talking Brad Stevens yesterday, Jaylen Brown today. If you missed yesterday's show, go back. It's a great conversation about Brad and how he's kind of like running counter to Danny Ainge in a lot of ways, and whether he can handle the pressure of the trade deadline. But go follow Chad. It's Globe Chad Finn on Twitter. And if you like these shows, plenty more guests coming on. A big deep dive into Brad Stevens, his coaching tenure coming up in a couple of weeks. That's already been recorded for the 2 weeks running up to the end of the off season. So make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcast, and on YouTube. We are free everywhere on all platforms. So subscribe and tell your friends that they should be listening to the Locked On Celtics podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network.